Can you explain a little bit about custody evaluations, what they are, and when they're needed?
Sure. This actually, this could be its own separate conversation.
Yes, I'm sure. We're going to do a whole
But
segment on that. Yeah.
uh, in short, a custody evaluation is called for when there is no agreement between the parties what should be the court's order on custody and parenting plan. And so then, if parties can't agree, the only other way to get a decision is by having the judicial officer decide for you, who is a perfect stranger, who has never met your children,
Mm-hmm.
um, who may have been in your presence for 20 minutes, sum total. So their understanding, the judge's understanding of the parties, is limited to what was filed in written pleadings
Mm-hmm.
by the parties, as written very carefully by their lawyers, um, who we are, in a sense, hired guns. We're mercenaries, to put it bluntly.
Thank God for you.
um, and the little bit of time, the few moments that the parties have in court in front of the judge, that's all the judicial officer has to base their decision
Right.
on what's appropriate for the children. So most of our judges understand that those are potentially fatal limitations
Mm-hmm.
on creating, on following the um, public policy of making custodial orders that are in the child's best interests, not in the dad's best interests or, you know, some other person,
Mm-hmm.
but an order that's actually going to maximize the children's opportunity to
Mm-hmm.
be successful in the
Right.
end. And that has to take into account life's realities. Every parent has their own strengths and their own weaknesses. The question is figuring out what they are, and then how the order needs to be crafted to accommodate those. So that's the role of a child custody evaluator. This is a person who is the court's own expert. Now, we do get to participate in the selection process
Mm-hmm.
of
You have a
who.
few options, and then you choose. Each
Sure,
party chooses one.
sure. But ultimately, if parties can't agree, then the court selects somebody. Um, and this person is appointed to basically turn over every stone, look in every cranny, um, dredge up every issue that I've yet to read an evaluation report and not come away with a better understanding of my own client. I always learn something new about my clients when I'm reading these things. And these reports are 40, 60 pages long. And the recommendations are at the very end. Last couple of pages are going to be the recommendations. So based on what I discussed in the 59 pages that precede this one, I recommend as follows. But it's that report that goes over um, what the evaluator learned by interviewing the parents, by observing their interaction with the children. Um, Sometimes psychological testing is done on the parents,
Mm-hmm.
and if done correctly, the tests are used to either confirm or dispute a working hypothesis. They are not. They are a means to an end. They're not an end in of themselves.
Mm-hmm.
if any evaluator bases the recommendations on the Rorschach ink blot test, I would take issue with that, especially since by last count there are 3 equally valid ways to interpret that particular test.
Right.
They will talk to teachers, and if the children have their own therapist, they'll talk to the therapist. Basically, the family is one giant open book.
Mm-hmm.
So it's very invasive. But the benefit, so that's the cost. Well, then there's the financial cost. They're not cheap.
Right.
But the benefit is a set of detailed recommendations that then form the framework for how the family is going to function going forward as essentially 2 separate households.
Mm-hmm. Seems really useful. I've seen clients of mine that found out a lot of things about their spouse after the custody evaluation that they didn't know about, which is interesting. And it's a good model, because if you people really went through this process of evaluating family members and evaluating the relationship of their partner with coworkers and with other people, they would have a better understanding of who they're marrying. So a lot of times people don't evaluate very well.
Oh, you're thinking of applying the same thing at the beginning of the
Yes.
relationship.